recessed area, and the orb is right there in the center. So you start and run right for it. We've got a couple simple pillars for line of sight, but really a simple map. For something like this, the gameplay is all about the combat. You don't really necessarily need a lot of line of sight blockers or things in the map to make it fun. And here's what I was talking about with the point values. You could see the farther away you are, the less points you would earn. Closer to the middle, the more you would get. The concept piece of where this could fit into the world. And finally, we've got Tolvir Proving Grounds. We haven't done a new arena in a long time, so we thought, maybe it's time to add another one in. A lot of players are very happy with the arenas that we have now, so we've been tentative to add a new one. But this really felt like a cool opportunity to use a really neat piece of art and do an arena that could be simple and that players would really like. So we based it off Nagrand Arena, which is one of our most popular arenas. And it's got a great sense of place in the world because it really feels like it could be in Uldum. When you go there, you would know exactly that it fits. So here's a look at it from the top down. It's just a simple square with 4 line of sight blockers. They're kind of on the side of how it could fit in Uldum. So we have one other new feature we're talking about adding in, and Greg's going to tell you about it.
You guys still with us? Almost done. We're almost done.
We're getting close.
Go to the bathroom soon. Achievements. Let's do this. It's pretty much all we can say about it. We're going to take some of the achievements and let them be shared across all the characters you have, particularly things like the raid achievements and some of the ones that are more difficult to get. And then this will also give us the possibility to introduce some new types of achievements. So, for example, we could say, get every profession to max level, which would be really cruel to do for one character, but across your stable of characters would be kind of fun. So look for this soon. All right. Talk a little bit about some class changes coming up. I think most of these are pretty exciting. First one is a change we're going to try for resilience. We really like the way resilience works as a stat for PvP. We like the way that when you're hardcore at the very competitive levels, getting even a little bit more resilience can make a big difference. And we know that it gives you a good goal to work towards and makes the PvP gear rewarding. Our concern is that it's a big barrier of entry into Battlegrounds or Arena. There used to be a day when you could kind of come in your PvE gear and gradually work up to better PvP gear. Players have told us now they feel like they just can't compete in PvP at all because there's such a big step up. So the way we're going to try to do this is to treat resilience as a base stat, which means you'll get a little bit every time you level up. Even naked, your character will have some resilience. And then as you get PvP gear, you'll get up to the kind of resilience you have now. We don't want PvE gear to be the best gear for PvP, but we want it to be something you can use, and vice versa. All right. A few other things I'm going to talk about. The future of ranged weapons, warlocks, shaman, and druids. I can't talk about everyone, but we still love you. Just had to throw that out there. Okay, ranged weapons. Ooh. I'm just going to milk this for a second, so just... Okay, it's gone. So once we decided to make this change, then we're left with, what does the hunter do with their melee weapon? It's just a stat stick. So hunters don't need melee weapons anymore. You just get your ranged weapon, you're good to go. And the funniest thing about this is we went really quick from everything is a hunter weapon to nothing is a hunter weapon. Okay, this leads to some other questions that I'll hit real quick. We don't think we even need a range slot for all of the other characters. I know, it's crazy. We think the relic slot is like one of the least interesting pieces of gear we can introduce. It's got some stats on it, but we don't drop them in dungeons and raids. You pretty much get your new one every tier and you're good to go. There's not a lot of gameplay there. Honestly, we don't think we'll really miss it. The rogue and warrior will just throw their melee weapons when they need to do ranged attacks. So that's what I mean here is literally the gun, bow, and crossbow are hunter weapons, and the other classes don't ever want them. And then finally, we know some of you casters want to be Harry Potter. So rather than cutting the wand completely, we'll just make it a main hand weapon. So like you have your caster dagger, your spell sword, sometimes you'll get a wand. It'll be statted like the other items. You can use it in your main hand. Warlocks. I'm just kidding. I beat on Paladin so much, I had to show love. Warlocks are one of those classes we want to take a really hard look at with the new talent system, because we thought once some of those kind of signature abilities are available to any Warlock, you're really left with like a bunch of guys that are kind of using similar spells and doing similar things. We really thought there's a lot of room to kind of push Affliction, Demo, and Destro away from each other a little bit. So the way we're going to try this is we have a unique resource for every spec. We're going to keep Soul Shards for Affliction. We like the improvements we made for Soul Shards and Cataclysm. We totally agree with the feedback that they're not quite interesting enough, and we have some cool ideas for them. But Soul Shards will be something Affliction uses. You pick Affliction at level 10, you get Shards. You pick Destro or Demo, you're going to have something different. Demonology is a new resource called Demonic Fury. You build up Demonic Fury by doing stuff, and when you hit max Demonic Fury, you then metamorphosize. So rather than it being a cooldown, you can try to build it up constantly. You can try to be in demon form a little more often. We're going to do some new, cooler abilities that you get to have in demon form. We think this will make the spec just play very differently. And we have a new resource for Destruction. Destruction has always been a little tricky to design because it kind of feels like, hey, I'm the Warlock who thinks he's a mage. And we just don't think that's a rich enough kit for Destro. We feel like Destro's been... could stand to have a little more excitement going on. What Infernal Embers are, as you can imagine, the Destro Warlock who keeps casting fire spells slowly gets hotter and hotter and eventually catches on fire. And when you hit this fire space, then your conflags do really crazy damage. The problem with ever having those big destruction nukes be too powerful is the burst issues we have. But if you have to build up to get to that point, we think we can handle throwing some really massive conflags out there. So this will be the kind of thing, again, you can build it up pretty quickly, hit your big nuke, and then build it up again. We think this will be just a lot more fun overall to play the spec. And then if you want to switch specs to Affliction or Demo, you're going to feel pretty different. Shaman. This isn't a really big section, but we think totems are a really cool mechanic, but we agree that it's not so fun to constantly be dropping, I need my Strength of Earth, I need whatever, just to do competitive DPS or healing, and just to kind of be the buff bitch for everyone else in the group. We'll still keep the concept of buffs. You'll still bring them with you to a group, but it'll just be something you can have innate or cast like Arcane Int or something like that. We want all totems to be about utility. And that means we have to fill in the design space a little bit with some new totems. So we have an Earth Grab totem that does a big root around it. We have the crazy Repulsion totem that keeps people from getting close to the shaman or wherever they put the totem. And then we have the Bulwark totem, which puts a shield on the shaman and helps them to take a little more damage. Now, when we talk about the shaman talent tree here in just a little bit, you'll see how some of these totems fit into the talent tree. Some are core and some are talents you have to choose, the exclusion of others. And druids. This is a pretty short section, but it kind of shows what we can do with this new spec and talent system we have. Druids always felt like they had 4 specs, so now they do. Feral stays as the cat-based melee DPS spec, but we're adding a new spec called Guardian, and this is the bear spec. There'll still be a lot of overlap between the two. Some of the fun of playing the druid is the flexibility, and in fact, when we talk about the talent trees, you'll see that we're really trying to go after the player who wants to be able to shift around into lots of different forms. So there'll be a lot of overlap between the Feral and Guardian spec, but overall, if you want to be the tank for your group, you would probably want to pick Guardian. And all druids can still go cat or bear form. You're not losing that ability. All right, just because we didn't mention you, I still want to think that we're not doing anything for you in Mists of Pandaria. We have done a massive spellbook cleanup. We've gotten rid of some more junk. We've tried to find roles for some of those spells that never actually did anything. We want to clean up action bars a little bit, but not removing the fun things, just kind of removing this spell has such a very narrow niche that I don't use it often. Rotations are improved, kind of how I mentioned for Warlocks. We're doing that pass on all of the specs, even if we're not changing your core resource. You now automatically learn spells in the field. You don't have to go back and visit your trainer. It always makes us cry a little inside to see a level 15 or 20 player going along and they have all these spells they haven't learned yet because it's just not worth it going back to the trainer. This feels pretty good. Trainers will still be there for things like respecking. Lots of new spells. There's a lot in the talent trees. There are a few new core spells where it makes sense. We're still thinking about giving everyone a new level 87 spell. Level 90, you'll get your final talent point, but we might give you a new spell at 87. Specs more developed, like I mentioned with the Warlock and Druid. And overall, we really want talent trees to be fun. They shouldn't be a chore. They shouldn't be the thing you just look up on the internet to find your cookie cutter build. They should be something you can really obsess over and have a lot of fun with. And I think that wraps it up for us. As you can see, the team has been crazy hard at work on this. Usually when we talk about a new expansion, we have a couple of concept pieces and that's it. But our artists, programmers, producers, the whole team has really been kicking ass trying to get this together. And we can't wait for you guys to get a look at it. You should definitely go play it. We have a lot of Q&A sessions coming up tomorrow where you can ask questions if we've blown your mind with all this information. And hope you enjoy the rest of the show.